that is PM off-air. Let's have a conversation right now with Labor MP Matt Thistlethwaite, Liberal MP Jason Falinski. Lads, let's talk about COVID and the long-term damage that is there when it comes to our kids. Surprise, surprise. What I said, what I was criticised, what I copped it over was that lockdowns are great for rich people, they're terrible for poor people. And yet again, we get some examples here that when you take away face-to-face learning, NAPLAN and the rest of it starts to suffer, Jason. That was the reality of the past 2 years.
Paul, absolutely right. You're right. And by the way, can I congratulate you last night on the Politics in the Plum? It was a fantastic event.
Good man.
And mate, it's kind of interesting listening to the questions the punters want to ask versus the question that the Canberra Press Gallery would ask. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But yeah, look, you were right. My own daughter, and I know Matt's got kids as well. They really did. I think in 2020, when the lockdown was kind of a bit of a novelty, it was okay. But by the time we got round to last year, that last 4 months, a lot of people, and talking to a lot of parents at my daughter's school, a lot of kids really suffered. And there's a lot of work being made up this year by some excellent teachers doing the hard yards, and parents worried about their kids on a lot of levels, not just academic, people being ostracised from different groups of friends, people not able to work, make friends in the playground, socialise, all that sort of stuff. It was pretty terrible. And I don't think we ever want to go back to that situation.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, I know that we've been talking about it for a long time, and anyone who lives away from wealth, they know that reality, but it was absolutely underlined in the past couple of years, and shame on anyone who thought it was a good idea to keep the kids out of the classroom a minute longer than they should have, which is, in my view, they never should have come out of the classroom.
Well, this reflects the imbalance that we have in our education system at the moment. You can almost tell when you walk into a school straight away how the school's going to perform. Those schools generally with more resources, the ones with the big playing fields, with the big swimming pools, with the performing arts centres and all of the resources that kids need, generally perform better. And I visit public schools that are struggling with basic necessities, and no doubt they've got kids that are struggling to keep up. And unfortunately, during periods of lockdown, this is reflected and even magnified. And we know that unfortunately there were kids that did fall behind, that didn't have access to computers, didn't have access to online learning, and they're the ones that suffer. I'm not sure you can solely blame it on lockdown. That was based on...
But certainly exacerbates. Oh, yeah. And look, and I'm not pretending that there's not disparity in there, obviously, across the system. My issue was just about what exacerbates the problem. We made a problem worse with what happened. Now, let's talk about home ownership. And the next little while, a whole bunch of polling suggesting that it's going to matter at the election, but it mattered at the last one, the next one, the next three, right? Because we're all worried about our kids. We're all worried about our families. Matt, I know it's impossible to say super fast, but super fast. How do you make it easier for people to buy a house when the market says that what was worth $500,000 is now worth $1 million?
Yeah, I think it's a great failure of this government that they haven't been able to make housing more affordable. Housing's probably the most unaffordable it's been in Australia. There's certainly the rates of home ownership, particularly amongst younger cohorts, are at the lowest levels that they've ever been. Jason and I have just been involved in an inquiry, and the report will come down on Friday. And we don't agree on all of the recommendations, but we do agree that we do need to increase supply and ensure that more houses are being built to house the population. And Labor's the only party with a policy to do that. We're proposing $10 billion housing future fund where we'll build 30,000 new affordable properties across the country so that teachers, nurses, AMBOs, fireys, aged care workers can get into property and can live in the areas that they work in, and that's pretty important.
Look, I don't disagree about the importance of affordable housing, but also in terms of social housing, don't forget the waiting list in New South Wales alone is 60,000 people, let alone the 30,000 across the country. But Jason, how do we deal with this? Because the point is, anyone who's selling wants as much as possible, anyone who's buying wants as little as possible. How do you interfere in that market?
Mate, what we need to do, Paul, is stop interfering in the market. And what Matt just said is Labor doesn't have a policy to help people buy their home. What they've got is a policy to own you and the home you live in. This report that comes down, the parties have never been further apart. The Liberal Party wants people to own their own home. The Labor Party wants to own the home that you live in. This is a major issue. The reason that prices and affordability have got so far out of control in Australia is because of taxes, over-regulation, planning restrictions. We are literally, as we speak, destroying the very foundations on which this country was built simply because we don't want to upset people down the block or because we don't want to have a real discussion about this. This is really simple. If we do not get out of the market and allow people to build the houses that they want to live in, then we are condemning the next generation of Australians to a two-class system. If your parents own property, then you'll probably own property. If your parents don't own property, then you'll be a renter all your life. And it's that simple. And if we don't actually fix it at this election, it is almost going to be impossible to fix.
Thank you, lads. Plenty more time on that. Let's go back and do it in more detail next week. Thank you. Do appreciate it, Matt Thistlethwaite, and also there with Jason Falinski.